Caitlin Clark has now broke that glass ceiling, and they should be bowing at her. She's going to create jobs and money.
To hell with the WNBA. They're nothing. They're nobody. Nobody's watching.
They lost 50.
As expected, the WNBA went completely bankrupt after Caitlin Clark's shocking departure. It's clear that before Caitlin even entered the league, hardly anyone knew it existed, let alone cared to watch. But when she arrived, she didn't just bring her exceptional talent. She brought fame, fans, and most importantly, money. The league finally started to feel alive. People were tuning in, talking about it, and for once, the WNBA wasn't just the butt of a joke in sports debates. But then she left, and with her exit, the WNBA went right back to being broke, completely out of cash. It's as if when Caitlin walked out the door, the dollar signs followed. Now, the WNBA is left with nothing but empty arenas and unpaid bills.
Now, believe it or not, there is far more panic coming out of the WNBA dump than there is coming from
Caitlin Clark's departure from the WNBA wasn't just a minor setback. It was like pulling the plug on the league's lifeline. One moment, they were soaring high, spending like saving was a foreign concept, and the next, flatline. The turnaround was almost laughable. The WNBA, which had finally started to resemble a real thriving business, took a nosedive the instant Caitlin left. The numbers don't lie. Before she walked away, the league was at its peak. Tickets were selling out, merchandise was flying off the shelves, and money? They were practically swimming in it, Scrooge McDuck style. But now, it's as if someone flipped the switch, and the financial collapse has been nothing short of disaster.
Ending for many teams, there are already so many players heading overseas to play during the off-season. But with all of the drama currently surrounding the WNBA, on top of the low-paying salaries, some of these players are questioning if they'll even...
Let's not even get started on player salaries. Or actually, yes, let's dive right in because the situation is that absurd. Paychecks have dropped so low that some players might be seriously considering Uber shifts between games. We're talking salaries that make your high school gym teacher's paycheck look like a Wall Street executive's. Even the WNBA's top players, who were making decent money thanks to the Caitlin Clark effect, are now watching their bank accounts shrink faster than the league's post-Clark TV ratings. Some players are reportedly eyeing the exit, as overseas leagues are offering far more attractive options compared to the near chump change contracts they're getting here. If the WNBA keeps offering these rock-bottom deals, they might as well start packing for Europe.
Have to pay us more in order for us to be here. And I think I didn't express that when I first talked about player inclusion. Our commissioner talked about us being able to make 700,000. It's not true at all. There's not one that can do that. And we were promised two marketing experience, three marketing experience that they.
Caitlin wasn't just another player. She was the backbone, the cornerstone, and the WNBA's golden goose. She wasn't just filling seats. She was practically printing money for the league. The ratings? All her. The sponsors? They showed up because she did. But now that she's gone, the league can't even find its wallet, let alone keep any cash. The fallout has been devastating. They're scrambling just to keep the lights on. And it's not just the rookies feeling the pinch. Even the league's biggest stars are facing brutal salary cuts. In the locker rooms, players are seriously wondering if they need to start side gigs, because basketball alone just isn't paying the bills anymore.
And there was a huge boom in merchandise and television viewership and sold out arenas and all of these things, which I feel like the WNBA could have capitalized on it even.
The WNBA front office is in full-blown crisis mode. When Caitlin was still around, there was this sense of calm and confidence, as if everything was under control, because they could always count on her. But now, they're in damage control, scrambling to stay relevant. Players are openly talking about leaving for leagues where they can actually make decent money. And honestly, can you blame them? When you're earning less than a middle school dodgeball coach, it's hard to stay motivated. The financial meltdown seems almost too crazy to be true. How does the departure of just one player cause this much chaos? Because Caitlin wasn't just any player, she was the player. She was the one fans tuned in to see, the one whose jerseys sold out faster than concert tickets, and the one who brought millions into the league. Now that she's gone, the entire financial structure of the WNBA is spiraling downward.
Despite their efforts, nothing seemed to reverse the tide. As they continue to lose millions,
Caitlin Clark was the spark that ignited everything. This wasn't a slow and steady rise. It felt like the league had been launched from a cannon, and the stats were shouting her name. The Indiana Fever, once a team people barely remembered, suddenly became the hottest ticket in town. A 265% jump in ticket sales? That's not just impressive, it's outrageous. Their home games, which used to have just a handful of fans and concession workers, were now drawing a packed house of 17,036, making Indiana the new WNBA attendance champions. And it wasn't just Indiana that felt the Caitlin Clark effect. Teams like Las Vegas, Washington, and Atlanta had to move their games to larger arenas. Why? Because everyone wanted a seat to watch Caitlin Clark play. Her impact was so huge, it even had the WNBA asking, how do we make room for an entire city to show up?
Has never seen fans like they have this season. New numbers just came out last week announcing the total attendance numbers in the WNBA, and of course the Fever led with 643,000 total fans for the entirety of the...
Let's break down the jersey sales because these numbers are absolutely mind-blowing. A staggering 1,193% increase in Fever jersey sales, all thanks to one name, Caitlin Clark. And it wasn't just basketball enthusiasts snatching up those jerseys. People who couldn't tell the difference between a layup and a jump shot were buying them just to say they owned one. Caitlin Clark transcended being just a player. She became a full-blown cultural icon. The Fever's Gainbridge Fieldhouse welcomed over 186,000 fans during the season, with 8 out of 11 home games completely sold out. For a team that once struggled to fill half the seats, that's nothing short of extraordinary. Clark didn't just attract fans, she brought an entire army with her.
Playoff series pulled in 1.8 million viewers for Game 1 and 2.5 million for Game 2. To put that in perspective, the average viewership of this first-round series alone has already surpassed any WNBA Finals ratings in league history.
Caitlin Clark wasn't just another basketball player. She was a living, breathing sensation who captivated not only die-hard basketball fans, but also those who might not even know what a three-pointer was. Everyone was eager to witness her make history. Her impact? Immediate and monumental. Let's rewind to June 23, 2024, when the Indiana Fever faced off against the Chicago Sky. This wasn't just a game, it was the game, drawing in 2.3 million viewers, with a peak of 3.3 million. These aren't just impressive numbers for the WNBA, they're groundbreaking. The league hadn't seen viewership like this in over 2 decades, not since the early days when women's professional basketball was still a fresh concept. Caitlin wasn't just putting the Indiana Fever on the map. She was carrying the entire WNBA on her shoulders. She transformed casual onlookers into dedicated WNBA fans overnight. And for the first time in a long while, it felt like the whole world was paying attention.
Plays in a playoff game, there are over 2 million people who are tuning in, and then the very next game that she is not in, there are less than 1 million people tuning in.
But then she left, and wow, things went downhill fast. The WNBA without Caitlin Clark feels like a birthday party without cake. Just awkward and a bit sad. The arenas? Practically ghost towns. Attendance has dropped so drastically it's almost painful to witness. Teams are throwing desperate Hail Marys to get fans back in the seats, but nothing's working. The Caitlin effect was so powerful that without her, even the die-hard fans are staying home, probably scrolling through Netflix instead of watching games in half-empty arenas. The energy is just gone. Players are trying to hype up crowds that simply aren't there. The numbers speak for themselves. When Caitlin was playing, tickets were on fire. Take that June 23rd matchup against the Chicago Sky. Tickets were reselling for an average of $346. That's Beyoncé-level demand. But now, tickets are practically being given away, and even then, people aren't exactly lining up.
Caitlin Clark eliminated from the playoffs. WNBA ratings declined.
Caitlin Clark wasn't just a player for the WNBA, she was the player, the heartbeat that kept the league alive. Now that she's gone, it feels like the WNBA is running on fumes, desperately trying to keep the wheels turning. Without her star power, the league is teetering on the brink, barely holding on. Teams are slashing costs in ways that border on embarrassing, and while the WNBA is trying to put on a brave face, the desperation is obvious. Salaries are being cut left and right, but the damage runs deeper than just numbers. It's tearing the league apart. Caitlin's departure was like pulling the crucial piece from a Jenga tower, and now the whole structure is collapsing, with no one able to stop it. It's shocking to think that not long ago, the WNBA was finally hitting its stride after years of struggle. Now, it's cutting salaries like they're clipping coupons, all because Caitlyn's exit ripped away the league's financial foundation. The cold, hard reality is clear. The WNBA is standing on the edge of bankruptcy. Without her drawing in the crowds and the cash, the odds of recovery are growing slimmer by the day.